If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hello Internet, I'm glad to tell you that we're back and we have General Bornman with us once again. I'm not going to say he's a proud Afrikaner and he's doing this in English for your benefit. I said it in the previous 3 episodes. It's a fantastic story. I'm really enjoying it. General, welcome here. Thank you for being with us. We are most grateful to you. And can you tell us what happened after you left the military academy? I suppose you're now a commissioned officer. You're a second lieutenant or one-star general if you were in the US. Perhaps you can tell us further.
Of course, good afternoon. Thank you very much. No, when I left the academy, as I said previously, I went to hunting grounds where I went to school. And now the old teachers training college, now the Army Gymnasium with very good facilities. A very big hall, all the troops could fit in there, a gymnasium, a swimming pool, good sports fields, and everything was okay. We had a range, rifle range just next to the unit, and for our field exercises, we moved to Potchefstroom and elsewhere, even to Natal, in the Makatini flats and Sabaya and so forth. But that was a very good environment for leadership training. We trained leaders for the infantry to become second lieutenants, to be in command of platoons. And by the way, old General Montgomery said his first command as a platoon commander was his best command. And we must think of it as a command, because you command plus minus 30 guys and you take them into action. And this is what we trained the guys for. And then, of course, the corporals who became section leaders and platoon sergeants. We also conducted courses for the South African Army, and we trained permanent force instructors as well at the Army Gymnasium. In my term of duty there, I first started off as a platoon commander, then a company second in command, and then I became the adjutant of the unit, where I learned a lot of the administration of a unit. And later I also became a company commander and commanded a company in training as well. The officers' corps were a good bunch of selected people, and we really worked as a team. I couldn't practice my rugby sports we didn't have a team, but I played for the town and I got permission from the Defence Force to play for a private club. And I joined the local rugby club with a few of my fellow officers, and we really enjoyed it in the Eastern Transvaal, where I played my school rugby. So it was known territory to me. In the unit as an adjutant, as I said, we learned a lot, and I want to tell you an incident that happened there one day. I had a commander, a Colonel Potgieter, and the Friday afternoon, and I'm not going to mention the names of the company commander, they fired these strim grenades. It's a grenade that you put in front of the rifle and you fire it at enemy tanks. It's quite a potent weapon. And there were 3 misfires. And it was Friday afternoon. The troops had to go to weekend pass. They had to prepare for that. And he just reported there's 3 misfires, but on Monday the team will come, because the demolition team had to come and destroy these 3 misfires. Everything fine. Monday morning come, and the company commander with his team goes out to the rifle range, and the 3 misfires are gone. They gone, and they're highly volatile. He reports this to the colonel, and we start with an investigation. And as things come to us, there were schoolboys on the range seen by the duty officer. He made a report in his occurrence book. Obviously, it would be a high school guy. Now, the Colonel said to me, you know the high school, you went there, go and tell that principal there's a problem. I went into the principal's office and I told him, listen, there's 3 bombs missing. I couldn't explain to him because he was not a military man. And this guy flapped. I'm not going to mention names. It's not my old principal. Mr. Mollett was already then an inspector of schools in those days. And he started on the school's intercom and he said, and I'm translating the words now into English. He said, everybody in this school stand still. There are 3 dangerous bombs in the school. Stand still. If you know anything, report immediately to me. And then the problem started. He answered the intercom and he tried to speak over the phone as if it is the intercom. Okay. It was about 1 minute. There was a bunch of guys in the principal's office, and in the one corner stood 3 guys and fingers were pointing at them. Obviously, those guys knew. We chased the rest out, and I said to them, what did you do? No, we picked up these funny things there. Where's it now? It's in the hostel. I said, my goodness. We went over to the hostel, and underneath in the hostel were these 3 strim grenades ready to go off anytime in an old orange bag, where we used to get oranges in South Africa. It's also an orange bag, a knitted bag, and it was there. And I said to them, okay, you guys just stand still here, right here. And we got the experts in to take it away. Otherwise, we had to demolish it right in the hostel. But now, of course, the funny part, one of these guys became a Special Forces operator. And I'm going to mention his name, Oberholzer, Obi. He later became a Special Forces operator. And the second part of this story is, when I was a pupil in matric, I did the same on that range, and I also picked up a lot of 3.5 rockets, but it was just the exercise rockets. They were painted in a light blue. So I couldn't row with these guys, because in that same hostel, I hid this stuff of mine there and I took it home. So it was, but I didn't tell anybody about what I did when I was young. We reported back and okay, happy ending, nobody got injured. But lessons learned, if there's a misfire, you must get rid of it immediately because people pick it up. Okay. In Heidelberg, sports was important. I was the rugby coach of the under-20 rugby team. We had a very good cricket team, and we really excelled. And at the end of 1973, due to rationalization in the Defense Force, the function of the Army Gymnasium was sent to Oudtshoorn. And this is where I went along there. I came in there as a second lieutenant, and I left in 4 years as a captain, already a captain. And from there, we went to Oudtshoorn to the infantry school. If I can look back at the years at the Army Gymnasium, again, very formative, meeting for the first time infantry officers, and a lot of the old staff members of the Army Gymnasium was then there. My one platoon sergeant later became, as a staff sergeant, became my mortar sergeant. I was a troop under him, and now I'm a lieutenant, and he was a staff sergeant. Later, Sergeant Major Jordan. That was very interesting, and it just proved to me that it's a very close-knit organization, the South African Army. It's like a family, and we really treated it like it. The civilians in the town was, in the beginning, they didn't like the army being there because they were used to the teachers' training college there, but later they adapted to the situation, having the soldiers there. And there ended my tour, being at school in Heidelberg, and for 4 years at the Army Gymnasium. It was good years in the Eastern Transvaal. Cold in the winter, but very, very nice in summertime. Of course, that is the situation. Are there perhaps any questions from your side?
Yes, of course, sir. There's always questions.
That's your work, is to ask questions.
Yes, I just want to tell you a story quickly. When I did my counterinsurgency training at a place called Milieuskop.
I know Milioskop very well.
Oh yeah, then you will know Bolio too. We ran up and down it. You know, there's no such thing as a training ground without a high hill or a mountain or a kopje or something next to it. I'm sure that's not by chance, is it? But anyway, during this, somehow they were throwing practice grenades and the veld caught fire. And so we had to stop everything and fight this veld fire, but it got away from us. There were a bit of a wind blowing. And so now it's sweeping through the farm, and it's a huge place. It's a huge place where you shoot continuously with planes and all sorts of things. They even have a mortar range there. And so as we were hitting the flames, we had like streepsak. I don't even know what's that in English. Where you
sandbags.
Sandbags, yeah. We were hitting the flames, trying to prevent us from going too far. So so these blanks would start exploding as people were dropping them and throwing them off as we were walking patrols and probably lazy or something. And that was fine. That was still what we call boere sport. And then we got to a mortar range. Well, there we've seen some serious explosion. You would come close and there would be a massive explosion. And so we wisely decided, no, we'll just move back and let the mortar range, at least that part of it, burn down. And so it's important, I think, that people don't throw away ammunition and don't
yes,
play the
please.
fool
They must not follow my example as a schoolboy. Later on in life, I really got frightened when I saw what could happen to a misfire rocket. There's one incident that I want to tell you about myself. The RSM was also our RSM in the Army Gymnasium in Pretoria. Sergeant Major Spats van Eden, also a veteran out of the Second World War, but a wonderful chap, very great man. And he was on leave, and there was a Sergeant Major Jansen that was now acting RSM. And I thought, yeah, this is a good thing to pull the mickey out of him, because Sergeant Major Ocker Snyman, our Sergeant Major at the Military Academy, became Sergeant Major of the Army. And I had a new colonel there, Hannes Botha, ex-Springbok rugby player. It's not his blazer that I had to guard at the Army Gymnasium. He was a big man, a very good Springbok rugby player. He played lock and flank, but a no-nonsense man. And really, the people were very scared, and they always asked me, how do you work with this guy? He's a difficult man. I said, well, let's just do my work, but I'm very, very cautious about going about with this man. And I imitated, and I phoned Sergeant Major Jansen, and I imitated Ocker Snyman's voice. I did it at the academy. I could really imitate him. And I said to him, Jansen, it's Snyman here. I want to inspect your unit. And immediately you must get all the NCOs and warrant officers ready. Get them, tea time, I'll be there. I want to speak to them. And I want to speak to everybody, and everything is going to be right. Do you understand me? And before I could stop him, he ran into Colonel Botha's office, and he said to him, Colonel, the Sergeant Major of the Army is coming here. Hey. And what did Colonel Botha do? He phoned Chief of the Army, General Willem Lou. And this now was a difficult piece of machinery. The old man was really difficult. And I could just hear through the door. He said, but General, please, why don't you phone me, and the Sergeant Major phone me and tell me, the OC, that he's coming here? Why does he speak to the... No, wait now, honest. Nobody's coming here. He's in the Cape at the moment. He's not coming there. Now I thought, wait, let's get the truth here. And I walked in. But I crept under the mat and I got out and I gave him a funny salute. And I said, Colonel, I'm sorry, it was me speaking to Jansen. There's nothing. You bloody man. You got me into trouble with Chief of the Army. Just get out. And I went out. Oh, well. I learned a lesson. If you try tricks like that, you've got to cover up before things get out of hand. But this is the way we went on there. Really, and I want to tell you another thing about the Army Gymnasium. We talk of special forces. The nucleus of the then founded special forces after 75 came from the Army Gymnasium in Heidelberg. We were 3 general officers commanding. General Lutz, he was one of the officers commanding of the Army Gymnasium, General Hubert, and myself. And Hannes Botha, Hannes, forgot his surname now. It's 4 of us. Hannes Venter, sorry for that. 4 of us became officers commanding. The one guy, Chili du Plessis, became an RSM of 4 Special Forces unit, and then a very good operator. You know, the names will come back. But the nucleus came from the Army Gymnasium. And I'm proud to say that. So it meant that they were good guys. And yeah, Charles Laudier was the other guy. He was an excellent operator. You'll hear from him at the later stage. And it was very interesting that these guys really made their mark.
But it's surely not by chance, sir. Surely there's madness or method behind this.
But we had good officer commandings. Unfortunately, all 3 of them, the first one, John Heiser, he became a general. Hannes Botha died of cancer. And Alex Potgieter also died of cancer. Unfortunately, these 3 commanders that were there in the infantry time, they're not with us anymore. And they were good guys. So friend Hannes was a difficult man, but a thorough soldier. He also jumped in at Kassinga while he was director operations for Chief of the Army.
Yes, Kassinga was a parachute jump. Perhaps you can just tell us about that, because there might be people here who might not know about 1978 in Kassinga. And of course, the revenge, the attack on Katima Mulilo a few days later.
That's correct, yeah.
Perhaps if you can just give us the background.
Didn't Saki tell you a little bit more about Kassinga?
Yes, he did indeed. He said he was a dispatcher.
The Citizen Force regiments. He was a dispatcher at that stage. But in Jeff, I wasn't there, so I'm not an authority. I've got book knowledge and knowledge speaking to other people. But it was a training base and it was a transit camp of SWAPO. And we attacked it, very successful. FAPLA reacted with armored vehicles and our buccaneers. One guy, Dries Marais, he got a honoris crux there because he returned and he neutralized those armored vehicles. And the propaganda against us after that was that it was an orphanage and it was only women there and everything. But rather that one of the guys who jumped in there tell you, but it was a real attack on an enemy base, far away from our bases on the extended line. And it was a very good operation, I think, with only 3 casualties on our side. The one guy, Human, is not found till today.
Yes, we'll get somebody, I'm sure.
Yeah, please get somebody about Kassinga for us. On Kassinga.
Can I ask you, when in your life do you realize you're an officer? And I know this is perhaps a silly question, but when does it click to you that I've got to lead? It's not a game anymore.
At the academy, it was a different situation because we were all there. We were lieutenants, and it's only the second and first years that were subordinates, and of course the NCOs and all the other people that was involved there. They saluted you and so on. Look, we were students. We were in leading positions during exercises and problem-solving exercises and that. But it was not a situation of you felt that you've got men under you and you've got to lead them and you've got to solve problems and you've got to keep them on the beaten track. It was at the Army Gymnasium. Once you had a platoon or a company and you were responsible for these guys, and you start training them, and then of course all the problems that they have, the domestic problems and this type of thing, then you click and you realize. And the first time you put your officer's pips on and somebody salutes you, it is difficult. You don't understand the situation. One day, this old Sergeant Major Snyman, I've got a very high esteem for the old man at the military academy. He was quite a character. It was a funeral of General Turner of Bophuthatswana's son, Fred. They were good friends with the Snymans. And I was at that funeral as a colonel, then from Kimberley. And Ocker Snyman came up to me, and he was already retired then. And he came to attention, and he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Colonel, can I call you on your name now?" I said, "Yes, but there's one proviso. I will always call you Sergeant Major." And he laughed. What a wonderful old man. Yeah, but these are just things coming back.
I've heard a joke about the gymnasium. I don't know if it's true. You can confirm, perhaps. And it goes something like this. I'm translating as somebody told me in Afrikaans, not on this program, years ago. And he said that you had like a big parade or something there, and there were a general officer coming. And so they needed some kind of early warning system. So they put the one troop, which I really don't want close to any general, at gate guard. And with orders that should we see the general coming, you better call and just warn them that they can get themselves sorted out. I don't know if you heard this joke, sir.
Yeah, it's a very general joke about the corporal saying, "General, you late." Or the troop said, "General, you late. You're in trouble with the corporal. You're late." This type of thing.
Yeah, he's looking for you.
Stevens, he also made a cartoon out of this thing quite lately. I don't know where it happened, but it's a general joke about the general. But it's a good story, and these things happen.
Well, I think people sometimes forget that there's actually a human being behind the officer rank.
Oh yes, just another human being.
I've also heard a story, sir, that perhaps you can confirm to me. Is you as a senior officer, you've gone through the ranks, and it has taken years. It has taken you a while to get there, as it should. And then you meet some of the trooper or people who were below you, and you're not in uniform now, but they still address you on the rank of when they knew you. So they would address you as major. And then you can figure out plus minus where you met this guy, because there's thousands of them and it's only one of you. Is this correct, sir, that you have sometimes such problems?
Very true. It's very true. I'll tell you, my father stayed in Port Elizabeth, Quebec, now is the new name. He was operated, and I flew down just to go and see how he is. And while I was visiting him, the surgeon that operated him, Dr. came to me and he said, "Hello, Captain, how are you?" I said, "I'm fine." I was already then retired. And then I precisely knew where I saw him. It was at the infantry school. After that, he studied medicine, and now he's a specialist in the medical field. And immediately, I didn't recognize him, please. And they know when you fake the situation. Yeah, I remember you and all that. And I said to him, "But listen, could you remember this guys that I remember, and so on. Yeah, I was in that company. That guy said, yeah, thank you very much. And then he asked me, what did I do? And I told him, but, and he said to me, your father is in good hands. And the old man made it there. He went and he finished at 97 years. And then he left this earth.
Oh, yeah, that's
That
experience.
was 10 years. That was 10 years after that. Another thing of experience is General Mayling used to tell the MK people and people that came into the defense force. Said to them, gentlemen, it takes about 20 years to get 20 years experience. The same applies to any occupation that you have. You must have experience. You can't come in. I can't now go to a dairy farm and start farming with cattle. I've got to start milking the cows and feeding the cows. You can't jump in the top. Exception was our bird generals, but they were sons of the soil, and they just had it in there.
Well, they were natural fighters. I suppose it was
Natural
a lot less
fighters and
technical.
leaders.
Yeah,
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 not
well-
less technical and leaders.
that's true. That's true. Would there be any difference in food between the officers and the men in a place like a gymnasium?
Obviously, in the officers' club, the food was good. But just adjacent to us was E Company, and they had the same food as us. We had waiters there to stand in a row for convenience sake, and their food was dished up. But in the Army Gymnasium, the food was very good. Each company had their own kitchen. In Pretoria, while we were there, we had one kitchen to serve the whole unit for 5 companies plus the other staff. But our food was reasonable. You can't complain. I mean, we're still alive today, and we made it. It gave us fuel to go through a day. But in Heidelberg, really, the food was excellent. It's interesting with the new intake during basic training. The first thing that goes is bread. You see a guy consuming bread because he uses energy. There's enough food for everybody. Then there's also a rule when we go out in the field. Your troops eat first, then your NCOs and warrant officers, then the officers. And that's an old custom. I don't know where it comes from, but it's a very good custom. If the food is finished and the officers haven't eaten, you won't have a row and a problem. And this is to make sure for officers, to make sure that the food is sufficient for the troops. But the troops eat first. Normally when I'm at a civilian function or something, I said, okay, let the ladies eat first and or dish up, and then the officers will eat, this type of thing. And then I tell them the story. I make a joke about this, and I tell them the story. And it's actually very true and the right thing to do.
Well, so if I was now a cynical man, I would say that's to wait and see if something happens to them before you eat.
Yeah.
No, I know that.
The Royals.
And I also know the South African Army, I believe, have a tradition that the officers will serve the men on Christmas. Is that true?
That's true. That's
Rose,
very
you
true.
can tell us about that, sir, where that comes from.
I think, because I'm under correction, I think it's a British custom. But on Christmas Day, even the officer commanding and the officers, they dish up for the troops. And then we all eat together, not in the officers' mess, but at the communal mess where everybody can fit in. And what we even did, the families were also there.
I wrote a book once and I called my commanding officer a very old man. And he was not amused. He actually called me. He was 27 or 26 and I was 18. But to me, he looked like an old fellow. And then I revealed quite a few things we did in the police in those days, which we thought he didn't know about. And the second words to me was, I knew what you were doing. I was just ignoring you until I had to actually get, involved. So I need to ask you, sir, as a company commander and a platoon commander, do you really know everything with what's going on there below you amongst the men?
No, Chris. It's impossible. It really is impossible. The one, I'm also not going to mention names. One officer commanding, he was at the infantry school and later in the operational area. He used to have, very much like General Patton, he used to have spies, I call them spies, in certain areas who we informed him about irregularities. It's my personal opinion now, I don't believe in that. Because some people make misuse of the opportunity. Things must come natural. Therefore, you've got lieutenants, you've got captains, you've got sergeant majors, and all this. But to spy, I don't think, this is not to me soldier-like, especially in operations and things like this. No, it's impossible. Later years, you hear things, and you get to know of certain things that happens. But no. And then the other thing is some things you overlook. I mean, I'm talking about nitty-gritty. I'm not talking of criminality and abusive things and vulgar things. That's a no-no. But certain small things, I want to tell you, at the military academy, after Sergeant Major Snyman, there was a Sergeant Major Erasmus, the ex-RSM of the paratrooper battalion. Excellent man, Umrasi as we used to call him. The then Colonel was a Colonel Kutsia. They were inspecting while the students were in class. And the one guy was bunking class, and he saw the officer commanding an RSM coming forward. And he jumped into the cupboard where they used to hide brooms and polish and things like that. And the brigadier said to him, "Sergeant Major, just go and look in that cupboard. If everything is all right there." And as the Sergeant Major opened the door, this guy said, and by the way, he also became a very good Reiki guy. I'm not going to mention his name. And he said to him, "Sergeant Major, in this cupboard, there are 4 brooms, 2 mops, and 3 tins of polish." So Major closed the door. He said, "Colonel, everything all right? 3 brooms, polish, everything all right." But that afternoon, this young guy, and I'm going to mention his name, he's also deceased at the moment, old Cornelius. He was the officer commanding of Spy Special Forces Regiment. That afternoon, the Sergeant Major took him to the parade ground. And he gave him everything that he wanted. And he didn't tell the brigadier, this guy bunked the class and all these things. Now, to me, that is a trooper. That Sergeant Major understands troops. He got his punishment. But they didn't hang it on the bells and charged him and all this type of thing. It's not criminal. Oh, well, it's naughty not to go to a class. Perhaps it was a boring class. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But this was a Cornelius.
It's interesting to me how these things always come out, and I'm so glad you're telling us this, because it will get lost in time if we don't know these things. I'm sure people has been chuckling, yeah, I have, in the background. But there's one thing which for a national serviceman which is quite important. It's called 40 days. Now I could not figure out why it's 40 days and why not 39 or 22 or 60. There was even a song called 40 days. Were you ever in command of national servicemen where you could expect them to go a bit wild on that day before they leave?
Yes. When I was second in command of 7 SAI battalion in Palaborwa, yes. And then 40 days comes from the song, correctly, as you said. I want to be home in 40 days. I think John Denver or some other Guitar Joe played this thing. And it just became a custom in South Africa. And what we used to do is to tell the troops, okay, it's 40 days tonight. Each guy can have 2 beers, and we're going to give you a braai. But then the control after that braai must be very strict. They can't get out of the camp. And I don't want to say constant surveillance, but there must be order after this. And arrange something for them. But no, if you prevent problems, you do this type of thing. Or the
May
best
I ask you, General, what do you expect in a young officer? What is the things which you will not give way on, where there is no leeway whatsoever?
First of all, honesty, being genuine, knowing your subject, and don't tell the troops a lot of stories. The one guy was a captain, and he always promised the troops everything, and he got the nickname of Captain Promises. Well, we had ministers that we also called some other Mr. Promises and all this type of thing. And then you must lead by then you must lead by example. You must lead by example and set a good example. And he must know his men. And he must have an ear to listen. And if there's a real acute problem, you must address it. And the main thing is honesty. And be an officer and a gentleman. That's the main thing. They mustn't find a gap on you. You know, when I was in Messina, we sent some of our young soldiers from Leboa to the infantry school, and they come back, and on this course, this whole big course, he came out third position. The marks and everything was right, but he couldn't handle a platoon. Now I asked the troops, what's wrong? Why don't you? They said to me, he's not strong. And I want to tell you now, the platoon commander must be strong. I'm not talking about a guy with muscles and picking up 2 troops at once and assaulting them and all this, but he must be a man. He must be strong. That was a lesson to me that I learned from those troops. And the corporal was brilliant. Really was brilliant. But he wasn't strong.
Well, that's fascinating to me because I've known about places where the officer was a bit weak, and then the warrant officer would basically be dominating him. And I don't know why they thought that we would not see it, because we could see it quite clearly happening. It was actually quite frightening to watch because you didn't know who's in charge.
You get that in battle. It's human. The guy just freezes or he starts panicking. And therefore, the platoon sergeant, the sergeant major, which are seasoned men by then, they must be able to take over. And the troops can see this. There's a video on the YouTube channel. It's an Australian one, Sea Patrol, of this one captain. He joined the other captain, went on a course, and he took over the ship. The old man did a few stupid things. And the executive officer was a lady at that stage, but it doesn't matter. She just said to him, "Sir, I relieve you of your command. Go to your cabin. I'm taking over the ship." And the warrant officer took him to his cabin. And this is the type of thing that we see. Okay, that was a story, but I think it was based on truth and experience. It's a very realistic, and I enjoy that series very much. These things happen. Remember, an officer is only a human being, and in wars, many generals commit suicide when they see it's a losing battle. I made a mistake. and all that. And what Hitler did, he brought them in and shot them. Or not him personally, but he had them shot. I think Hitler killed up to 36 generals that he had executed. People that didn't follow his orders to the nail. But remember, it's only human beings. They freeze. And I've learned one thing, of course. These guys with the big mouths and always telling stories, and we get it nowadays that they all say, I was a recce and I was there and I did this and I fought there and I did this in the war, and you know it's not true. Those guys must never get into a position of command, because they are the guys who will freeze. It's to overcome that inferiority that they tell these stories and so on. You can spot them, and I can mention names. I'm not going to do it, but really there's a lot of these stories to be told. Big guys that run away, majors that run away. It's human. It's just human.
So what would the system be to find out these people before they can get to command? What can you do from the army side to ensure that such a man, will never receive command?
Oh no, most definitely. There's selection, and remember, with each course they see how you apply, and I mean, a man is there or he isn't there. And especially at the command and staff course, they train commanders. And there's another staff course, which is a management and staff course. It's people. Some of them become commanders. It's not discriminating against them, and they come to a good rank and even become generals. But some people are ready to command, and other people are not ready to command. They can be in charge, but they cannot command. There's a difference between that.
Can you tell us what's the difference? What's the difference between taking command and being in charge?
Command is under stress, if I can put it this way, under difficult conditions, to control your men to achieve an object. To be in charge is you manage. And the difference between the two is a commander can tell a guy to go in and he might lose his life. A manager or somebody in charge of an administrative unit, that's not part of his job description. That's the difference. Is life and death, and under operational battle conditions.
I keep on saying to people here on this program that everybody was important. Would you like to agree with it?
I'm going to take the Air Force as an example. For every pilot that's there's about 9 to 13 people supporting you. The one guy, fuel, the mechanical guy with the engine, the radar guy, the guy in the tower with the radio procedures. There's a man that tells you the weather, and the instrument technician. So I can embroider. An Air Force is not the one man just flying. It's a whole team supporting that one man flying. And for every soldier in front to us, there's about 8 guys. Mathematically, I can prove that. Behind to support him. From the personnel department, the logistical department, the medical guys, the communication guys, and everything. There's a lot of guys supporting this one man. And we used to speak about the logistical guys as the loggies, logistical guys, as jam stealers. It's a term that comes from the Second World War, and they're not. If those guys don't do their job, I won't have ammunition up in front. I won't have equipment up in front. I won't have radios. I will not have rations. I will not be able to fight. And Sergeant Major Koos Moorkrop, he was also Sergeant Major of the Army, and also a very top recce, great man. He used to tell the guys, we think us as operators, but there's 9 guys behind supporting us. And we must remember that, and we must thank these guys.
Do you think it's possible, sir, that esprit de corps can be taken too far? And I'm thinking now of this running battle between the parabats and the armor guys.
Yeah. No, that is so. That is so. We must scheme against the enemy, not against each other. That luckily I wasn't in a situation like that. And there the commander at all levels must have the finger on the pulse. Especially with rugby matches, people get worked up, unit against unit and this type of thing. But these things must be controlled. South Africans, just go to Loftus or Ellis Park or wherever on a Saturday afternoon, especially after the guys have had a few lemonades, and the referee blows the whistle in the wrong direction. And the example also is our soccer teams. The referee gets a knife between the ribs. No, one must control these things, and troops must be taught this. We competed against each other. There's sportsmanship. That's another thing that's in life, is sportsmanship. When it comes to sport, when it comes to a unit, esprit de corps, you do your best for your unit, you give everything, but not to the detriment of another guy. No, but this thing of the armor and the parabats, that it worried the commanders very much. It takes one little spark just to go across.
Well, it takes a lot of money to train these people, and the guy gets his head knocked off and he's now in hospital with concussion. At some stage you have to draw the line. At some stage you have to say, listen, it's the same uniform.
I know of an instance where Colonel Moore, when he was a brigadier, Archie Moore, officer commanding of the parachute battalion, once a group came from the border and they became obnoxious, the Omana as they call them. And he just said to them, okay, go to the quartermaster store, draw your tents and all your equipment. You walk into the training area and you're going to pitch up camp there and nobody leaves that camp. I think that's a good idea. Because, you prevent this type of thing. And that was in one unit. These Omana and grensvechters, GVs, grensvechters, coming back and taking it out on the juniors. And this happens in units. That's within a unit. They treat the subordinates in brackets and the juniors very badly, and vulgar things have happened. And one must just stop that. That's not necessary.
Perhaps
that's not building the unit.
Perhaps at this stage, it's interesting to me that I never asked this question before, and here we are. We must have had close to 90 episodes already with different people, and I thank them all, including you and all the viewers. You're most welcome. It's fascinating from where they are watching. Almost every country in the world. It's strange. Can you explain to us the terminology here? National serviceman, OMAN, and PF.
Okay, let's start with PF. PF stands for Permanent Force. That's somebody that joins the army as a professional soldier and a career soldier, whether he's an officer or a non-commissioned officer. That's his career. A national serviceman is somebody that has been called up. In later years, it was 2 years for doing his national service. He could go into any corps, get the highest rank was a lieutenant, and the corporal. Some were even made sergeants, but that's a national serviceman. Now, especially in the beginning times, every 3 months there was a call-up, a January call-up, and after 3 months another one, and so we went on. Three call-ups every 4 months in a year. Now, the guys coming in January are the Omana. And then when they are in and this new intake comes in, they call them blaugatte because they kick their asses and and it's blue. And then they become oumanner. And then another junior group comes in. And these oumanner jippo their cap badges and their berets, and they wear brown clothes that's been tore to pieces in rags, and the sun bleached it and everything, and it gives them that pose of a ouman. In a way, one must leave these things, but they got their pride, and especially if they came back from a stunt in the border, on the border. They've got a little attitude, and it must be controlled. And I think the Archie Moore model is send them, if they're obnoxious, send them to the field with their staff, with their major, everybody. They go there. They stay there till they clear out, and that's the main thing. One must stop this type of thing. We abuse each other and all that. We must fight against the enemy, not against each other.
Which is the fourth one, which I forgot about, a comper.
A comper is a man who finished his national service, and every year he gets called up for 3 weeks or even 3 months to go in the stint at the border. That's a comper. He goes on a camp, but he goes to a unit where they need his mustering as an infantryman or as a armor guy or a logistical guy or a paratrooper or whatever the case might be. A comper is a man, and then they had to do it for 10 years. I always say that's why I joined permanent force, because I didn't want to do all these camps.
Do you had any disciplinary problems with him? With the campers, or perhaps being unfit?
Yeah, the first thing is the hair. They come there with wrong hair. Then they all have domestic problems. While I was in Messina, 2 incidents happened there. One morning, I had a company there, an infantry company, and they were based at Brig to guard the bridge and to look at the situation, and just to show a very good presence and to catch all these guys that hop the fence. It's an important job that they have. And my chaplain was on leave, and there was a junior chaplain, a national serviceman. He wasn't a fully qualified chaplain. He just finished his 7 years at this seminary, and he was there temporary. And as I walked past, I saw the string of troops standing in front of the chaplain's office. I said, "Chap, what are you doing?" No, the chaplain gives us pass. Now that's wrong. The company commander can give somebody leave or a pass. And I said to the chaplain, "Please come and see me." And the little man was obnoxious, but 3 hours later he packed his stuff and he went back to Petersburg. That's not done. It's and they see the gap. The other one was I later controlled these leaves perfectly. If a guy is there and his wife, and obviously we phone and we confirm the problems. If his wife is ill or his kid is ill, he can go, but he comes back, and we help him with a train ticket, or we organize. There's always transport going somewhere. But he comes back. He gets a few days off to go and sort out his problem. I mean, we're human. And then I said to the guys, okay, if you can come with a very good story, but it must be a cock and bull story to get leave, you can get leave. And I'll write it in a book. And the stories were there, and well, I laughed at some of them, but the best one was, and the guy got 5 days leave for this. He said he had to go to his grandmother's wedding because she's got to get married. She's pregnant. I said, okay, this is fine. You can go. Whether it's true, I'm not going to vet this. I'm not going to confirm this. You can go. If it's a lie, it's on you. Go to your grandmother's wedding.
Yeah, that's the best one ever. That's the best one ever. We never really had any female soldiers in the army. I know your daughters served as well. But as a commanding officer, say, if you have a female officer or females under you, is that different from the
No.
normal males?
Question later when I get to Special Forces, I'll speak about women in Special Forces. So I'm not going to use that. In Messina, my quartermaster was a major, a woman. No difference, no problem. With intelligence, there was a few women. With the Corps of Signals, communication people, there were a few women. And in the personnel section, there were also a few women. They did their normal courses. They came on parade with us. They did everything. They didn't go out on patrols and things like this. We didn't have that situation. And my communication officer was also a major, a woman. She was married to one of my majors. No, they were treated as normal staff, and really they were good. Oh well, yeah, here and there you had a problem, but it was far in between, really. But luckily, I didn't have to take them out during operations like the Israelis do. They just carry on with that, and even women as infantry company commanders. I didn't have the situation. Nowadays, you have women as infantry battalion commanders. I don't agree with that. It's my personal opinion. And I once was asked by a group of people from Natal, why isn't there a woman in charge of Soutpansberg military area? And I looked at him and I said, would Shaka have a woman in charge of impies? It was the end of the question. The war front is not for a woman. They can, in support functions, 100%, but not the war front.
Well, that's a traditional way. I mean, you do want to protect your women. I know that there's a lot of them who would be very angry with what we're saying here, but I have to ask people how you will react if you see a dead female soldier. It's not a nice sight to see a normal soldier dead, a male one of your own. I mean, you grow up and you see your own dead.
We saw female soldiers on the Swapo side that were killed in action. But that's a different story for a different day, for a very long discussion. They never came in with the troops patrolling and doing excursion into Namibia and further south. That never happened.
So as a rule in South Africa, I don't know if it's still like that, women will not be in combat positions, in combat units, or they might.
In our time, I can speak for that. Yes, it was the rule. Now, I don't know. As I said, women are in charge of infantry battalions. The Minister of Defense is a woman. It's politics. Politics is never logic. Coming from a soldier, politicians never reason with any logic. You can crucify me for that, but it is true.
Perhaps I should ask you about that, sir. The influence of politics on the life of an army, or is that an entire new episode?
That's a new, completely new field. We can talk for hours, and I can mention a lot of examples, good and bad. We can.
Well, I would
take that.
I would love to talk about that. I think it's important before we forget about it.
Yes.
But let me, I think, would you believe, sir, we've been talking an hour about the gymnasium, and then I took it somewhere else. But you know, it's so fascinating.
No, but that is good. It's very good. The questions are very good.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So then I will end this episode now. I'll say thank you to you. Thank you very much, sir. We will carry on. We will talk about the politics. I think it's important that people know about it.
Yes, I fully agree.
And so, to all of you listening here, thank you. Thank you for the thumbs up thing. Thank you for spreading the word. The channel is booming. I never expected that. We praise our Lord. We are trying to help everyone here. You were important. You heard the general say so. You were important. So please come and talk to us. If you have a story, man, we want to hear your story. There's no such thing as an important guy. Please believe me when I say that to you. And I'm sure, sir, you will agree, and then I will just say goodbye.
I fully agree. Everybody plays a role.